All right, welcome, Tony. Can you hear all of us all right? Hello, Tony. Can you hear us?
Hey, Sarah.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
to see
we,
you.
yeah, so thank you. And sorry for the technical difficulties in
No
getting
problem.
started. But yeah, no, this is really exciting. Great opportunity. And, I've learned a bit about SGAC and just to think about how the SpaceGen Advisory Council is doing such tremendous work early in their careers. Definitely see our future's bright. So in terms of the update, I thought what I'd do is spend about 15, 20 minutes giving an overview of a theme that's very important for Maxar, which is space technologies for good, and then leave time at the end for Q&A, because it'd be great to just kind of hear firsthand, what's on your mind and ways we might be able to collaborate on this journey. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Maxar. Maxar is a Earth intelligence and space company that is based in Colorado, but we have team members that are distributed around the world. And the company was formed through the integration of multiple brands that had approached different sectors in space, from manufacturing spacecraft to providing satellite imagery services to delivering different forms of geospatial services and aerospace services. And one of the things that has been really fulfilling for me in being with the company is that we're very mission driven. And we also are very focused on commercial innovation. So how do we take all of these amazing capabilities but apply them to solving problems that are facing our society? And so to just dive in, we started every meeting by recapping our values. And so the company, our 4,000 team members, we put mission first. We work better together. We stay curious. We act like owners. We do it right. And all of our team members, we show each other that you matter. And we're a set of professionals that are focused on two main segments of the business. So we have a space capability that's focused on building spacecraft, so satellites, as well as space components, robotics, and the like. And then we also provide Earth intelligence services. And so that starts with satellite imagery. So we own and operate a constellation of satellites that collects very high resolution imagery of the Earth. We're then able to take all that data and convert it into information products, including 3D representations. And then that data can be used to power a variety of applications, ranging from mapping to training and simulation, and other applications across our customer base. But ultimately, what we're doing is we're focused on, how we apply all that technology to be able to help our customers understand and navigate our changing planet, to be able to support, emerging missions like space exploration, and also to be able to facilitate broadband communication in the world. And so I love this image. This is a shot that we collected in the early summer after the unfortunate murder of George Floyd, where as there was protests, around the country and around the world, we were able to capture the satellite imagery of Black Lives Matter Square in Washington, D.C., to be able to give transparency to this moment in time. We do all that for a purpose of a better world. And so what I wanted to do was to summarize a few examples, of how we've put this purpose to life and bring it to life, and then, talk about, where we're going, in terms of ways that we can engage the community, in this process. One of the areas that's been, clearly front and center is with the change in our climate. It has been an increase in extreme weather events, and so, the wildfires that have been, ravaging, California up through the Northwest, into Colorado, even in Texas, is an area that we frequently get asked to support with remote sensing capabilities. And so this is an image that was collected over in California that gives a sense of the before state, the fires that were impacting the area, and then the way that we're able to apply technology, shortwave infrared, remote sensing, to be able to build automated fire maps, for an area that does damage assessment and can help first responders be able to focus their relief efforts. Another way that we've applied that technology is to be able to automatically collect data about change over time, and then to be able to understand that difference. So this is an airport, Denver airport, where it is showing, this is what a parking lot for a rental car facility, it looks like in a normal state. And then as COVID began to just change, how we operate, starting in mid-March, was the last flight I took for the year, you can then see that, all the cars are in the lot. No one's renting a vehicle if they're not traveling, to an airfield. And so, one of the things we're seeing is that as we build more robust means of collecting data, we then need to think about how to automate the extraction of that information to, again, deliver insights to people who need to make decisions on rapid timelines. And so another area that we've been focused on at Maxar is how to engage the community, through collaborative innovation, collaborative research, through an effort called Spacenet. Spacenet is an effort that's been in operation for coming up on its fourth year. It's been, what we saw as an inspiration for it was a lot of the great applied research that was occurring in computer vision for ground photos we felt could be applied to remote sensing data. We collaborated with a number of companies, including Cosmic Works, which is a nonprofit, AWS, Intel AI, other data providers like Capella Space, Planet, organizations like Topcoder of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, to be able to
Tony, you went on mute.
Other forms of machine learning, training data, and be able to facilitate research to create algorithms, for extracting information at scale. Here's an example of what that looks like. and in terms of how these algorithms can be applied to extract information like roads, buildings, different points of interest, and also be able to do things like automated damage assessment to support those types of relief operations I referenced with the fires. One of the other areas that we're focused on at Maxar is how do we support emerging space missions? And I think this quote is fantastic. It's John F. Kennedy in 1962. He gave a speech at Rice University where he talked about the potential for space. And I'll just read the quote, and then we'll talk about how we've seen that applied, over time. So the quote is, "We set sail on a new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained and new rights to be won, and they must be won and used for the progress of all people. The space science, like nuclear science and all technology, has no conscience of its own. Whether it will become a force for good or ill depends on man." So that speech led to the space race to put the first man on the moon. And so I think we all know this picture that was taken in July 1969, where Neil Armstrong was the first man to set foot on the moon. And that mission continues. So now 55 years later, we're working in partnership with NASA and many other international agencies, many industry partners on an initiative to support the Artemis program. I listened to the tail end of the public-private partnerships panel, and it was great to hear about the excitement around the Artemis program. We're supporting the program through 3 initiatives. The first is the power propulsion element. That's part of the Lunar Gateway effort. We're providing solar electric propulsion to be able to support deep space navigation in cislunar environments. The second is we're partnered with Dynetics in building designs for the human landing system, which will support extended missions for man on the moon. And then finally, we've been supporting the sampler mission with our robotics capabilities, which in 2022 will support the ability to have robots do pre-mission activities before humans land on the moon in 2024. I think the key point in all this is that there's a tremendous opportunity for applying space technology to missions that are really critical, for our planet. Whether it's having assets that look on the ground and monitor change and the impact of climate change, and give us data, to be able to support putting remediations in place, to protect our planet, providing first responders the information they need to be able to safely navigate an environment, and help people who are who lack food or resources and need aid or to support recovery. And then, finally, we see just an enormous opportunity to apply commercial technologies to the wonder of space, both to support safety and navigation in that domain, and to be able to facilitate us just better understanding the broader universe. And so I wanted to wrap again with this quote that I read a few minutes ago, and I think even though it was written now over 60 years ago, it's still relevant today. And for what I understand of the mission of the SpaceGen Advisory Council, you all are in a position to really apply all these emerging technologies for good. It was necessary both for advancing the technology, but applying it in a way that will make for a better world. So those were my remarks. I know we got cut off from the audio. Hopefully things came through okay. And I'll pause here the sharing and we'll go to Q&A.
Thank you so much, Tony. That was a great talk. We do have a few questions here for you. So the first question is, has Maxar used its technology, if at all, to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, it's a great question, Tara. The short answer is yes. So one of the things that we've been focused on early was understanding how different locations were implementing, shelter in place policies. so the image I showed earlier, which was the parking lot, that had the cars in the rental facility, we were looking at other commercial organizations and large public venues to be able to see what those patterns look like over time, across the U.S. and many other locations around the world. The other thing we've been doing is building foundational data that would be across large areas. So, for example, in Africa, we were partnered with the Gates Foundation on an initiative to be able to automatically map roads and buildings across Africa, which we use to help support aid. So where to target aid, through the crisis.
Great, that's very interesting. How much interaction does Maxar have with the Department of Defense or intelligence community? What changes, if any, do you see in that relationship heading into the future?
Yeah, great question. I spent a lot of time on that in my role at Maxar. So our business has, as I mentioned, two main facets. There's we build spacecraft, and then we provide Earth intelligence services. And for the Earth intelligence services, about 2/3 of what we do as a company is the support of the U.S. national security mission, both with satellite imagery as well as other forms of value-added services. And so one of the things that we're seeing as a really prominent trend is a desire to use that data not only for mapping but also early warning. So if there's some trending event, how do I get an indicator of activity? And so as we create satellite constellations that have more, not only collect data at high resolution, so you can see the level of detail in the imagery, but also support high revisit, seeing a location multiple times a day, that allows you to be able to support new missions that are directly aligned with future trends with intelligence. The other area has been around the 3D capabilities. So the part I showed earlier, where we extract 3D information, from a temporal stack of images, that allows military operators to be able to rehearse a mission in a virtual world, as opposed to needing to do that in the physical world. And so one of our partners is the U.S. Army, where we're supporting an effort called One World Terrain, where we're creating these immersive 3D environments to support that type of activity.
Thanks, that was a great answer. How is Maxar facilitating the logistics to work on on-orbit servicing? Is there a legal framework that must be observed for commercial companies as well as any launching state outside the US? Is this a challenge that ultimately needs effective policy to help with?
So satellite servicing is an area that is very interesting. We're involved in a number of pilot efforts in partnership with NASA, primarily, for that. In terms of the broader policy implications of it, that's not my specialty, but I do know that there is interest in being able to extend the life of these assets. One of the missions we're going to be supporting is refueling a Landsat satellite as an upcoming effort, and then that's been of interest to both civil, commercial, and there's a number of national security implications for it as well.
For our next question, this one comes from Kelsey Dirksen, and she asked, does Maxar work with NGOs to provide free imagery in cases of severe national disasters to assist with disaster response?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for that. The answer is yes. We have an open data program We typically support activations for major events. So think, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, ones that have, broad scale impact. We routinely dozens of events per year. We make imagery available to the public, typically with a very permissive license, a Creative Commons non-commercial license, and then a whole ecosystem of organizations will then take that imagery and do interesting things with it. So some of what I show with Spacenet, the automated feature extraction, is one example of that. We also work closely with organizations like the humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, who takes that imagery and then supports, crowdsourced mapping campaigns. And we also work with organizations like Team Rubicon, where their organization is focused on former military operators that volunteer their time to support disaster response. So yeah, it's an important part of what we do and how they align with our purpose.
Great. Our next question is a kind of a follow-up to that. Does Maxar make its remote collection data available to the public in any way?
Yeah, so the what I described was one example of that is through the around disaster response through the Open Data Program. The other area that we've been a number of our partners are really have seen a lot of benefit in is supporting the OpenStreetMap community. So we provide different image-based maps to the public that then allow the crowdsourced mapping community to be able to use our imagery as visual reference for extracting those roads, buildings, digitizing points of interest. And so that's been as part of our outreach, both from a philanthropic standpoint, but then also a number of the major commercial mapping companies have adopted OpenStreetMap as one of their reference layers. So that has been a part of that relationship as well. So if you use certain maps like Apple, Mapbox, Microsoft, Bing, many of them leverage that as a data source, and so we support that ecosystem.
Very cool. Our next question comes from Brendan Rousseau. He says, thanks for your talk. For young, motivated space professionals like us, what skills and experiences would you recommend that we prioritize to prepare us to lead this next generation?
Great question, and we are recruiting at Maxar, so we're happy to talk to all young professionals that aspire to do great things in this space. No pun intended. But we have there's a pretty what's been interesting to me coming into this industry. I've been in the industry about 10 years, and the variety of skills is really impressive. I mean, we have everything from system engineers to people who design sensors to manufacturing, to data science, software development. There's just a wide variety of skills that can be applied. And I think what is common across all of them, I talked about our values early, is it's about being curious, but then applying that to mission, I think is the common thread. And so I'd say that we have kind of multiple on-ramps to get into the industry. And if you're focused on dynamic opportunities, growth comes from that, is what I've seen. We had one of our team members who was part of the Brooke Owen Fellowship program. She interned with us. Through that program, she came in, became a data scientist, on a Earth intelligence project, and then now she's a system engineer, on our space team. And so I think having that ability to drive career mobility is really exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah, a few of our delegates were also participated in the Brooke Owens Fellowship program. So I know that people get a lot of value out of it. Our next question is from Amelia. She also says, great talk. And she says, in regards to satellite imaging and Earth observation, Does Maxar assess their role regarding the balance between privacy versus protection?
It's a really good question. I think that what we've found is, the quality of data we collect there's other means to collect the same type of data at different scales. As we've improved the resolution of the imagery, it allows you to characterize physical objects like a vehicle, but it's hard to, our highest resolution satellites collected at 30 centimeter resolution, which is about the size, a pixel is about the size of a home plate on a baseball field. And so, we definitely are mindful of that and want to be respectful of privacy, laws. But I would say that in general, the types of information that can be extracted from our source is more information about fixed objects, patterns of life, at a very high level. So while we've had that discussion before, I'd say that the areas where privacy is more relevant is, data is collected from ground-based, sensors.
That was a great answer. Thanks. Our next question, Maxar is at the forefront of Earth observation technologies with the Worldview Legion. What do you see as the next evolution of Earth observation technologies? And are there technologies that would enable their deployment?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And so Worldview Legion is our next generation of satellites that will launch next year. And what we've done is and a number of you probably understand the details of this better than me, based on where you are in your career. But what we did is we were able to miniaturize the electronics while maintaining the optic, which allowed us to take, what was, several thousand kilogram spacecraft and get it down to, call it 500 to 700, kilogram. So there's smaller assets, basically. Smaller assets allowed us to build, for the same dollar amount, build more. And then we're deploying in the different orbits to increase the revisit rate. And so we'll be able to see certain areas up to 15 times a day, that now we may see once a day. So kind of a completely different level of insight you can derive. And so I'd say that the implication from a technology standpoint is, as you increase your rate of collection, you then need to be able to get information out on fast timelines. And so we're investing a lot in both the technology to get the data on the ground and back into products quickly, but also the automation to extract that information. Because if you had to wait on analysts to be able to look at all those images, it would take forever, to get the insight out. That's the bottleneck. So we're seeing that as a more important part of the solution to be able to keep pace with the volume of data being collected.
Yeah, those are really good points. I think we have time for one or two more questions. Claude asks, satellite capabilities were mentioned in the Maxar 2019 report, including, among others, how satellite imagery provided by Maxar is supporting human rights by disrupting human trafficking networks, finding victims, and locating suspects. Do you know if there's a standard to interpret these satellite imageries in order to be used in courts?
I don't know that there's a standard to be used in courts, but we do have some great proof points of whether it's on the ground tip that then had us collect an image that was used. One example was in illegal fishing, basically capturing evidence of slave illegal fishing that was holding people as slaves. So that was a huge win that our team is super proud of. But I don't know that there would be specific standards around that.
Thanks. So for one last question, someone asked, does Maxar have any plans to launch a telescope that points out, i.e. like another Hubble, instead of towards the Earth?
It's not a kind of a short-term initiative. I think that for our core Earth intelligence, business, a lot of our focus is on how to help understand our planet, and then our space, businesses. We build spacecraft to support those types of missions, and so that's the current aperture. But who knows? I could see things evolving over time.
Great. Well, I think that's all the time we have for questions. Do you have any last words or thoughts you want to share with our delegates?
Well, Tara, just thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks to the delegates for not only being part of this talk, but what you're doing. I mean, you all are the future of this industry. The types of problems that we need to solve are ones that will play out over many decades. And so being pioneers for this next phase of our industry is really exciting, and I hope that you view Maxar as someone that you can work with, work for. Would love to kind of stay engaged with you on the journey. So Tara, thanks again, and hope you all have a great rest of your event.